there, kids! Our robbers right here are in need of some money again. Turns out Adobe can't be cancelled after using it for only a month. How should they gather the money before the Adobe assassins come to get them? Should they either perform an NFT scam or rob the local city bank? You decide.
Oh crap, it's the wrong lock.
What?
The key won't fit.
Yeah, so it's the wrong key.
Like I said. However,
No, you said it's the wrong lock.
so what?
Nobody is saying that this way.
Man, whatever. Who cares?
Oh, I do, Josh. I do.
Oh my god.
No, listen. You prefer using the passive object instead of the active object to describe the situation?
Is this really, am I having a stroke? Dude, we have to go.
I will never forgive you, Josh.
Yeah, that's what you get, you rubbish.
Alright kids, what should happen next to the robbers? If you want to see them in a court, click this video. If you want them to perform a Broadway show, click this video instead.
Do you remember these interactive videos on YouTube? Yeah, they were pretty fun. But what really fascinates me about them is how they introduce a surprising level of interactivity to their medium. Of course, YouTube videos weren't the first to use choices as a way to engage viewers. In fact, there are many types of media who use this concept and even explored it further. So let's take a look at them. Influencing a story through choices is something many AAA studios promise to include in their video games nowadays. However, a lot of these games fail to fully realize the potential of that concept. Interestingly, the idea of branching narratives isn't exclusive to video games. It has roots in books as well. Books traditionally follow a linear structure, but for example, titles from the Choose Your Own Adventure series escape this structure. At the end of certain pages or chapters, you're presented with choices that guide you to different pages, meaning you end up jumping back and forth rather than progressing in a straight line by turning one page at a time. In many AAA games like Cyberpunk, however, the story often still unfolds in a fairly linear fashion. The primary difference being that your choices affect which ending you get. Ultimately, these choices are often designed to add replayability rather than fundamentally altering the narrative structure. Like, come on, play the game again. You've only explored one of the 5 skill trees. What I'm trying to say. When books integrated choices into their storytelling, you had to use the medium itself in an unconventional way. Many video games that try to adapt this concept fail because they don't expand the concept to the boundaries of their medium. This might have been fine for text adventures, which entirely relied on making choices, but they were also popular in a time where the medium faced a lot more limitations. Writing and game design should go hand in hand there, but many times it doesn't. However, there are still exceptions that explore the concept further and successfully adapted it to their medium. But before we get to them, I want to mention a weird interpretation of this concept. With the rise of popularity of choice-driven media, some TV shows have adopted techniques that pretend to offer choices. I'm talking about kid shows like Blue's Clues, Dora the Explorer and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Fun fact for my fellow Germans. In Germany, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is called Mickey Mouse Wunderhaus because the title Mickey's Clubhouse had already been taken for the German version of House of Mouse. These shows often create the illusion of choice by asking questions directly to the audience and then pausing for answers. Of course, since these were pre-recorded episodes, no real influence was possible. As a kid, I found this incredibly frustrating. It felt like the shows assumed kids were dumb. Funny enough, Dora's intro did confuse me. I genuinely believed it was some sort of real video game. Maybe Dora the Explorer was the first ever Let's Play after all. And the choices they presented? Yeah, those were infuriating too. Oh no, the bridge collapsed! What could help us to get through the other side? The banana? The magnet? Or the bridge repair and construction set? Oh wow, I wonder what they're going to pick. As a kid, I always wanted to see how they would solve things with the less obvious options instead. That would have required real creativity and problem-solving skills. This is where I feel the Henry Stickmin series excels. Developed by the same team behind some underground indie game called Among Us, Henry Stickmin gives you that exact freedom. Every choice has a unique and often hilarious outcome. It's super entertaining and you can play them for free in your browser except for the newest title. It's also one of the few entries mentioned in this video where I would say you can also just watch a let's play or stream of it without missing out on any experience. Of course, many games have embraced the branching concept further. Games like Minecraft Story Mode or any other Telltale title follow a heavily choice-driven structure, much like early text adventures. Modern games often take this further by incorporating mechanics like QuickTime events or time-limited decisions. Life is Strange takes this a step further by linking its time rewind mechanic to the narrative itself, allowing you to experiment with different outcomes in a way that directly ties into the story's theme. It's just sad that with many choices you can't use the power at all. Another noteworthy example is Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which is a comment on the whole mechanic itself while also making use of it. Where things get particularly interesting in my opinion is when games merge choices with gameplay itself. The Stanley Parable is a perfect example. Here, your choices are made by physically navigating through the game world. This type of choice making feels deeply tied to the strengths of the video game medium itself. In the Stanley Parable, there isn't a list of available actions. Discovering what you can do is part of the experience, and the game often surprises you by responding to seemingly random decisions. There's even an achievement labeled unachievable, which can only be unlocked by using debug tools to cheat, which the game acknowledges with an ending. And I definitely have to mention Undertale. I think one of the reasons why fans fell so much in love with it is how the story is very much influenced by choices without really noticing it. Unlike other examples here, Undertale doesn't present itself as a concept that's influenced by choices. Instead, it plays with your existing experience from other video games and you're unknowingly choosing your path with your playstyle. Of course, this isn't the only thing that's clever about Undertale, but it's one mechanic I wanted to point out in this video. Beyond the uniqueness, depth and innovations this type of content brings to storytelling, it also scores on an emotional level. I think in a world where we have such an oversaturation of media like never before, creative storytelling is something that really helps regain refreshing experiences. Media gets increasingly more niche due to the mentioned oversaturation, which of course comes with both advantages and disadvantages. On one hand, it's an increase in representation, and I'm not only talking about characters you can finally identify with, but also more specific ideas, references and art styles which initially were a lot harder to find. On the other hand, there's less media people can bond over, since everyone tends to stay in their own personalized bubble. I know it isn't as crucial or problematic as I maybe make it sound like, but I keep hearing people complain about a lack of good movies, shows and video games. And I don't think this entirely narrows down to nostalgia. There are still many great things out there. What I think people really miss is the bonding with other people over the media. No matter if it's a book, movie, show or video game, if you and someone else like the same content, it makes it a lot easier to initiate conversations and build friendships on top of that. Of course, I don't mean that friendships aren't possible to achieve without the existence of media, but it can be a very easy introduction. Just like intense activities experienced together, like riding a roller coaster, being late to school, or being stranded in the middle of nowhere, can help strengthen the bond with someone, intense media experiences can have a similar effect. The key difference, however, is the fact you can bond over it even when you've experienced it separately. And this is where I think interactive media comes in. Those entries mentioned in this video are not only a more intense experience, its specialness makes it suitable to still be successful out of their initial niche. The intensity of the made experience not only helps to increase immersion and bonding to the medium itself, it also helps to bond over it with other human beings. There is a significant amount of people who bonded over these types of media. Of course, this type of media won't single-handedly solve the challenges of oversaturation or overly fragmented content, but it undeniably offers something special, a shared experience that invites conversation, connection and collective memories. And I think that's what makes it magical.